What is up, everybody, and welcome to another video. As promised, here are my college football rankings. As promised, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, I reacted to the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. I reacted to their rankings, and I am greatly upset with them. I'm still upset with them. So I said in that video on Thursday, I will have my rankings, and here I am. I hope you all are having an amazing Thanksgiving. I hope this doesn't ruin it. But yeah, before I get into this, please leave a like and subscribe. It would mean the absolute world to me. And also, if I know you, you know me. Um, I want to expand into like IRL content, like 1v1 in basketball or 1v1 in football, or really just any other sport or anything else. If you're interested, please let me know. We can work something out safely, remaining nice and safe. But yeah, I'm looking for people who want to do that with me. Now, yeah. So now jumping into the rankings. At 25, I have North Carolina. I am apparently much lower on North Carolina than the College Football Playoff Committee is, and I just have their this year for North Carolina is nowhere near what we thought it was going to be. We expected a lot, as we saw from the high ranking early on, but yeah, the loss to Florida State was not good. That just ruined their shots. And then the loss to Virginia, again, a not good Virginia team. So two losses to two bad teams have really just wrecked UNC season. And then a very close game against Wake this last week. They do have a shot to prove themselves against Notre Dame tomorrow. But yeah, it's not looking likely. I would give them a chance against Miami in their last game of the year, but overall, I have not been too happy with. Well, I guess I've been fine with UNC. Not what we expected, and those two losses they really do hurt. Next at 24th, we have Tulsa. Tulsa has been playing pretty dang well. They started off the year with a loss to Oklahoma State, but since then, through a couple postponements against Arkansas State and Navy and Houston, but then again, the big postponement against Cincinnati, but that is being made up. Yeah, the Navy and Cincinnati games are being made up, which are the two games I would like to see them play. They've looked fine. They've had outside of that the early loss to Oklahoma State, they've done pretty well. They beat UCF back when UCF was ranked, and then they beat SMU when SMU was ranked. So they've put together a pretty good season. I can't wait to watch the Cincinnati game in the last week of the year, but I'm very much looking forward to that. At 23, I have Louisiana, which is a team that the committee did not include in their rankings, which I was a little surprised. I understand putting Iowa in there, but when you go and look at Louisiana's schedule, they've only had one loss. First of all, they're at 7-1, and then they beat a top 15, I would say, team in the country in Iowa State. Their one loss was a 3-point loss to Coastal Carolina. They did struggle against Arkansas State and UAB, but they ended up winning. I see no reason why Louisiana should not be ranked, and maybe could compete for even a higher spot than what I have them at 23. But that's where I have them right now. Next at 22, I have Auburn. I have not been impressed with Auburn. It's been an up and down year in terms of their production. This week they do have the Iron Bowl against Alabama. I do think they will lose that game. Not only because the home team has won the last 4 games, but Alabama's just looked dominant. But anyway, with Auburn, Bo Nix has seemed inconsistent at best. I haven't liked what I've seen from the couple Auburn games that I have watched. But yeah, they're good enough to be ranked, especially when you look at the teams behind them. The only other team I could like for these, yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling on at this point. But Auburn's just looked good enough. They've looked too good not to be ranked, but not good enough to be ranked higher. So I think 22nd is the perfect spot for them. So these first 4 teams that I have are in the exact same order as the AP poll, and that is by accident. Okay, I did not base it off of them, as you'll see, because with the 21st ranked team, I have USC. I have been disappointed in USC. There was quite a bit of hype surrounding USC, I would say. They came in as a top 20 team, and then they won their first 3, but not by much. It was a combined score of 21 points. So they won by 1 possession, like an average of 1 possession. Their best game was against Utah when they won 33-17. But it's just they've had to squeak out wins against Arizona State and Arizona. I expect it'll be a very close game with Colorado this week. I have not liked what I've seen from USC, and I have them dropping a spot from when they started in the rankings. But yeah, overall not a horrible season. I do think there's a significant improvement between them and Auburn, and I think they could beat Auburn, but they just can't beat these teams ahead of them, like number 20 Texas. Texas has the potential to mess things up bad in terms of the Big 12. Because if we go and look at the Big 12 standings, at least I'll have a picture of it here. But yeah, if we look at the Big 12 standings, there is only one team with 1 loss, and that is Iowa State. All of Oklahoma, Texas, and Oklahoma State have 2 losses. Texas plays Iowa State. Now, Iowa State just came off a huge win over Kansas State. But Saturday, I don't know why I said today. Saturday is a meaningful day for Sam Ehlinger and Texas, as it is basically their senior night. At least from what I've heard, from the little research I've done. Anyway, this will be a meaningful game for Sam Ehlinger. As yeah, it is. Sorry, I was looking at the schedule. Like they have 2 more home games, but this is Sam Ehlinger's senior night against Iowa State, and I think Texas can win this game and really mess things up. They've looked up and down, as I mentioned. They've had their 2 losses came against in good games, but their first loss to TCU, that one's pretty much inexcusable, especially the coming off, like that game was after a shaky showing against Texas Tech, where they had to win in overtime. But their loss against Oklahoma, it's looking better now. That was a game where they were both about even in people's opinions in the rankings. But since then, Texas has looked pretty well. Looked pretty good. 1-score games. But I think Sam Ehlinger on senior night goes out and wins. I know this isn't a prediction video, but Texas, I have them falling in at number 20. 19, Oklahoma State. They just suffered a huge loss to Oklahoma, and I think they need a Texas win to stay in contention in the Big 12. If I'm not mistaken, in terms of the Big 12 championship, every team in the Big 12 has been eliminated from the playoffs. That's been established. No one, because Oklahoma State lost in against Oklahoma, they were the Big 12's last shot, I believe. Maybe Oklahoma can actually sneak in. I highly doubt it because it's going to take a lot for that to happen. Like they need to dominate, like shut out both Baylor and West Virginia in order to have a chance, and then maybe score 100 points in both games. But yeah, for Oklahoma State, uh, they've looked good at times, and then there have been times where they've looked a bit iffy. They are at 5-2 now. Their two losses came against obviously Oklahoma last week, and a little and Texas in week, what was that, 6 against Texas. Both, well, not exact. The only similarity, I was about to say both games were close. I can't read, and I was looking at the game above it. The only similarity between the Texas and Oklahoma games, outside of the fact that they were both losses for Oklahoma State, was that both teams scored 41 points. But yeah, these last 4 games have been tough for Oklahoma State. They started off with Iowa State. They did get the win by 3, then went on to lose to Texas. They beat Kansas State by 2 and just got obliterated by Oklahoma. They do have an easy remaining schedule, and I do expect them to win out. And if everything goes right for them, compete in the Big 12 championship. But I have them falling in at 19th. 18th, Wisconsin. I was shocked that the committee had them at 16th. I do think Wisconsin is a better team than at least two, than I'd say Marshall and Coastal Carolina. I think Wisconsin would win that game, but I don't believe they deserve to be ranked ahead of Marshall and Coastal Carolina because of that horrible loss. It was only a 10-point loss to Northwestern, but the 5 turnovers, that's just inexcusable. It was horrible offensive game, as we expected it to be, but still, for a team that was supposed to maybe even to compete for the playoff, that was a horrible showing from Wisconsin, but it did greatly benefit Northwestern. So I have Wisconsin falling in at 18th. Their game against Minnesota did get postponed, so even if they had won that game against Northwestern, they wouldn't have been able to compete for the Big Ten championship, which offers me a little bit of it makes me feel a little bit better that Northwestern would have been in there anyway. But we do have, I do say we because I am a Wisconsin fan. We have 2 tough games against Indiana and Iowa. Honestly, for the sake of the Big Ten, and just to cause absolute turmoil, I kind of want us to lose the Indiana game. We can win the Iowa game, but give Indiana an even bigger boost, just for the auto chaos. But I will be cheering for Wisconsin, and deep down I hope we win out. But 2 tough games, and I have Wisconsin not based off skill, but based off where I believe they should be ranked. They deserve to be ranked 18th, and 16th was a bit generous by the committee. 17th, I have Marshall. They've played outstanding. Marshall has played so good the entire year, just destroying just about everybody they've come across. Started off with a 59-point win in week 1 over Eastern Kentucky, I believe. I'm not good at it's EKU. I'm guessing that's in Eastern Kentucky. They did struggle. Well, they only scored 17 points against Appalachian State, which they ended up winning. As you can see, they're undefeated. But they haven't struggled like at all this year, and I think 21 was way too harsh on Marshall for the sole fact that they just haven't played anyone great outside of Appalachian State. Now there are 2 remaining games against Rice and the rescheduled one against FIU. I do expect Marshall to dominate in, but yeah, for Marshall, let me find the conference standings real quick. Yeah, they're going to win the conference. Maybe there's somebody I'm forgetting about. But yeah, no, Marshall should go on to dominate the conference, win out, and maybe get a New Year's Six bowl. Maybe. I would like to see a game between Marshall and Coastal Carolina. That'd be a personal one. or maybe have them play someone like Georgia, like to see where they actually did rank this season in comparison to these uh, power Power 5 teams. But next at 16, I have I think their counterpart for this season, Coastal Carolina. It's been a similar story to Marshall, and that's why I say their counterpart as a group of 6 team. Coastal Carolina has again beaten everyone they've beaten everyone they've played, and pretty handily too. I would say they beat their only Power 5 matchup at Kansas, but they beat them as you would expect them to beat them. Then they've been rolling ever since. They beat 21 ranked Louisiana, as I mentioned a little bit earlier when I was talking about Louisiana, and then this last week they beat Appalachian State, which was their second hardest matchup, I would say. They do have one more tough one against Liberty, and Liberty will definitely give them a fight. I love Liberty this season. It's kind of ironic how they lost on a blocked field goal this last week. But yeah, I think Coastal Carolina definitely deserves to be just outside the top 15. Definitely not 20th where the committee has them. At 15th, I have the University of Georgia. I see absolutely no reason why Georgia should be ranked as high as the committee has them. It's just first of all you have to do is look at if you look at their schedule. It actually their schedule looks better than I think Georgia is, because they have 4 top 25 wins, or four top 25 games. Sorry, not wins. They went 2-2 in those games. They beat then ranked 7th Auburn. They beat 14th ranked Tennessee, but then lost to number 2 Alabama and lost to number 8 Florida. But when you look at those games, if you look at them now, Auburn has fallen down to 22nd. Still respectable. Definitely a fine win. Tennessee just hasn't been what we expected them to be. They are 2-1 in conference. Or wait. No, they were 2-1 as of that game. Sorry, I'm trying to manage all this. They were 2-1 as of that game, and they're 2-5 now in conference, 2-6 overall, or 2-5 overall. Just not the team we were expecting them to be. But the Alabama and Florida losses. Alabama, the first bit of the Georgia game against Alabama, my head's just against Alabama was fine. They played great. They looked like they could be the number 1 team in the nation. But then the second half, they just collapsed. And then the following week against Kentucky, they won by 11, which is not the score you should beat Kentucky by if you are a top team. They then go and get destroyed by Florida. That one, Kyle Trask just showed them up. I think I gave his stats in the last video. Kyle Trask had 474 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Where Stetson Bennett, 5 of 16. He couldn't complete 10 passes against a Gators defense that is not good. 78 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. And Stetson Bennett, who was battling injuries throughout that game, he eventually did get straight up benched, and the backup quarterback didn't even do much better, if better at all. Then their next game against Missouri was canceled or postponed. I don't think they're making it up, so canceled. And they struggled to beat Mississippi State. There's no reason. Georgia is not a top 10 team. Georgia is 15th at best, I would say. At number 14, I have Oklahoma. They have had, again, an up and down season. Their 2 losses came to solid teams. It was in week 2 and 3. They lost to Kansas State by 3 and Iowa State by 7. So tough losses to deal with. But since then, they have looked amazing. They beat Texas 53-45, destroyed TCU, destroyed Texas Tech, destroyed Kansas, and then destroyed Oklahoma State. A game no one thought it was going to be that bad. I think people kind of thought Oklahoma had a good shot to win, especially because it was at Oklahoma, not Oklahoma State. And so everyone thought like it's going to be a close game. But no, Oklahoma shot them out of the water. It was a tough game for Oklahoma State and a great resume booster for Oklahoma. At 13th, I have the University of Miami. I have not been impressed with what Miami has produced. They do only have one loss, and that one loss was to then ranked number 1 Clemson. I will excuse that loss because everybody loses to Clemson. But even if they were 7-0, like excusing that loss to Clemson, I don't know if I would have them in the top 10. Like, if you go and look at their quality of wins, they beat Louisville by 13. Not bad. They beat Florida State by 42. Good. Like, these first 3 wins are great. But after that loss to Clemson, they only beat Pittsburgh by 12. They only beat Virginia by 5. They only beat NC State by 3. They only beat Virginia Tech by 1. And then you throw in that destroyed against Clemson 42-17. Miami just hasn't looked like a top 10 team. So I have them in at 13th. At 12th, I have Iowa State. Iowa State just had the biggest win, I think, in program history, I'm guessing. 45-0 blowout of a good team in Kansas State. And yet, everyone has Oklahoma passing them, who not only has Iowa State beating in the head-to-head matchup, has looked more consistent than I would say. Yes, Oklahoma has had has won. I think 5 straight? Yeah, it's 5 straight. But I think Iowa State has looked like the more consistent team this year, at least in my opinion. They are the only one-loss team in the conference. They did start off bad. They started off shaky with their loss to Louisiana. With their loss to the Raging Cajuns, and I don't know where I was just at. My head was somewhere else. But their only other loss came to Oklahoma State by 3. So I guess you can say because Oklahoma destroyed Oklahoma State, they should be ranked higher. But when you look at the Oklahoma and Iowa State matchup, Iowa State won. So I see no reason why Oklahoma should be ranked ahead of Iowa State, and that's why I have Iowa State at 12 and Oklahoma at 14. At 11, this is another team I think was ranked too high, Northwestern. They played some of the best football I've seen them play, by far the best football I've seen them play, forcing 5 turnovers against Wisconsin. I just don't think it was top 10 good. I think just outside the top 10 at 11 is perfect. And there still is the shot they get into that college football playoff. If we go and look at their remaining schedule, if I can pull it up, I think they should win out, except for the Ohio State matchup in the Big Ten Championship, as they will make it there because Wisconsin is out of contention now. But yeah, with Northwestern's matchup, they've already played their 2 hardest games in Purdue and Wisconsin, and 3 hardest in Purdue, Wisconsin, and Iowa. They now just have Michigan State, Minnesota, and Illinois. Should go 8-0, and I think by then could deserve the ranking of 8th, if not higher. But as of right now, they have only proven to me that they should be 11th, which only. At number 10, Oregon. I went a little bit back and forth with whether I should have Northwestern or Oregon higher. I did end up going with Oregon, just because they've been ranked higher throughout the year. I think if they played, it'd be a very interesting. That would be a Rose Bowl I would love to see, is Oregon and Northwestern. I think they're 2 very even teams. And I think the committee was very harsh, knocking Oregon down to 15th because they only beat UCLA by 3, whereas they don't punish USC at all for barely winning. Like Stanford, they destroyed. Washington State, they destroyed. Oregon is a second half team. They are. and I do think this the win against UCLA was not good, and without the touchdown at the very end of the first half, could have easily lost the game. But I think they haven't proven to me that they should be knocked down too much, especially with teams above the teams below them losing and just the commotion behind them. Oregon shouldn't really be knocked down. Now at number 9, I have Indiana. Yes, they lost, but I believe the game against Ohio State proved that they are a top 10 team. Like, you can't, I guess you can't, because it amazes me how people can watch the exact same thing and have two very different opinions. But yeah, from what I saw in that game, Indiana proved to be a top 10 team. Yes, they had their miscues. The interception in the fourth quarter was not good and ended up costing them the game. But that game, like the way they fought, the way they competed with the best team in the Big Ten, Ohio State, made Justin Fields look like a normal quarterback. Like, Indiana proved to me that they were a top 10 team and should not be ranked below 9th. At number 8, this is the absolute worst ranking that the committee had. BYU. They've looked so dominant. Zach Wilson has been a legitimate Heisman contender the entire year. And I was listening to on the College Football Playoff show, the chairman of the committee was talking about why BYU was so low. His only reason was BYU's strength of schedule. Yes, their strength of schedule has not been good. It's been bad. They've only had 2 top 25 matchups scheduled. One of them got postponed. But in that one top 25 matchup against Boise State, who was ranked 21st, BYU destroyed 51-17. Like, you couldn't have asked for much better. I don't care if Boise State was having quarterback issues. Boise State could have had their starting quarterback and still would have lost. Like, there's no way your starting quarterback's going to make up 34 points. 5 touchdowns. It's not going to happen. BYU dominated. They've looked so good. That game on the Smurf turf just proved that they are a top 8 team. Now, I don't think they will make. In fact, I know for a fact they will not make the college football playoff because they are ranked so low. But I do think they are a team that can compete with a couple teams ahead of them. They can compete with Cincinnati, Florida, Texas A&M. I think they can even compete with Ohio State and maybe even Ohio State they can compete with. I'm just rambling at this point. Let's move on to number 7. I have Cincinnati. Cincinnati has put on an amazing performance this year. Luke Fickell has been an outstanding coach. But yeah, the difference between Cincinnati and BYU has not just that Zach Wilson for BYU is a Heisman candidate, but in fact the opposite. Cincinnati has played, well, not necessarily the opposite. I don't know what I'm saying. Cincinnati has played better competition. They've played their top 25 matchups, top 25 caliber matchups. They played Army, who is 22nd, and they beat them by 14. They beat SMU, who was ranked 16th, and beat them by 39. They played UCF, who maybe isn't ranked in the top 25, but UCF, I believe, has the best offense. Cincinnati went out and won. In fact, they came back from a deficit, which means their defense stepped up in the fourth quarter and stopped that top offense from scoring. Now, Cincinnati does have the matchup against Tulsa on December 12th, and I don't think that's the championship game. Let me check. Yeah, I don't think that's a championship game. Yeah, so I think they play Tulsa twice, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they played 2 tough games against Tulsa left, which Tulsa is ranked, and just bolsters that strength of schedule. I don't think it's enough to move them into the top 6, but Cincinnati, it has been an amazing year. At number 6, I have Florida. I think everybody wants Florida ranked ahead of Texas A&M just because of what we've seen recently from Florida, and it has looked better, it's looked more entertaining than what we've seen from Texas A&M. And I will get to Texas A&M in just a second, but Florida does not deserve to be ranked ahead of A&M because of the fact that they lost to A&M. That's I don't think when two teams are even and they play, the winner of that game should get the advantage, and that's when, like as I mentioned, why I have Iowa State above Oklahoma. But yeah, Florida's just been so much fun to watch this year, with Kyle Trask putting up, I think, Joe Burrow-esque numbers. Like, he won't actually get to the Burrow numbers due to the fact that it's a shortened season. But I think when you compare his numbers right now to what Joe Burrow had in week 7 or 8, whatever week it is, they're about dead even. It's like Kyle Trask has 2,554 yards, 31 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. The only 2 knocks I have on Florida are the loss to Texas A&M and this win against Vanderbilt, which was by 21. But you would expect a top 6 team, especially with someone like Kyle Trask as your quarterback, to win by more than 21. More like what we have seen in previous games from them, specifically the Missouri game, for when they won 41-17. I guess it's only 3 points more. But I expected a bit more offense, especially against a winless Vanderbilt team. So now at number 5, a team that is in a very good position to make the college football playoff. I think the college football playoff will come down to 6 teams. I think the teams ranked 1 through 6 right now. The only other team I can really see making a push would be Northwestern and Indiana. Well, not Indiana. Never mind. Would be Northwestern, I think, is the only team that can legitimately make a push to get into the playoff. And here's why. The top 4 teams right now are Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Clemson. Those 4 teams. Notre Dame and Clemson have to play each other, and will play each other in the ACC championship game. There is a good shot that the loser of that game is knocked out of the playoffs. There's a shot. If Clemson loses, it's an automatic they are out, and whoever is 5th gets moved in. And as of right now, that is Texas A&M. I think if Clemson wins, that solidifies the top 4 because both Notre Dame and Clemson won against each other, and Texas A&M won an outside source. And that's why I think the current number 4 will more than likely be the number 4 in the actual playoff. But Texas A&M is not in a bad spot, especially because they already have their loss to Alabama and do not have to play in the championship game. That puts them in a pretty decent spot. Now, the case for Florida is they play Alabama in the championship game and could win that game. If they win that game, they're in. And then for Northwestern, they play Ohio State. If they win that game, they're in. But with A&M, they've just been consistent. Like, they haven't been the flashiest of teams like Florida was. But throughout the year, they've just been consistent. Like, in every single game except for their one against Vanderbilt, which is my second. Just like Florida, I have 2 knocks on them. Their loss and their game against Vanderbilt. So apparently Vanderbilt, I haven't followed too much Vanderbilt, but they have yet to win, yet they keep it close against good teams. But outside of that game, they scored 41 against Florida, 28 against Mississippi State, 42 against Arkansas, and 48 against South Carolina. Now, they have had 2 postponements in these last 2 weeks, but they are back this Saturday against LSU, and I expect them to win. I expect them to dominate. But then they play Auburn, who is ranked 22nd. Again, I expect them to win. I expect Texas A&M to win out, finish 8-1, and be legitimate contenders for the college football playoff. Now I'm going to breeze through these real quick because it's the same 4 everybody has. Clemson at number 4, The sole reason is because they have that loss, which Ohio State does not, and that's why I have Ohio State at 3, then Notre Dame at 2, and Alabama at 1. I just think that's my opinion with the top 4. Obviously, the playoff committee has their opinions, which differ from mine, and that's okay. This one, I can understand why they do have it like that. But yeah, these were my rankings. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm sorry for the long video. I hope you all have an amazing Thanksgiving. I hope I didn't ruin it for you. And I will see you all in the next video. Adios.